flocking to our banner. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. You never have it made, you always have to work. But, you know, that's a lesson that I guess every class or, you know, everyone has to learn that for themselves.
But when you went into the fall of '62 after the installation and you've got a house now and you're recruiting Ken's class, what was the reception you got on the Wabash community? Let's say start with other fraternities first. What was the kind of reception?
I'd say we were generally accepted. Okay, there were some fraternity members that, you know, looked down their nose at us as not being a true fraternity and all that sort of thing. But they accepted us, and we competed as a fraternity. We were in intramurals. We competed at Panhandle, like Ken said. We won the Panhandle Award, you know, for the best booth at Panhandle. The other events that the fraternities competed in, we competed as well. And so I think they accepted us. I'd say 80%.
And we did have great parties. I think we have to.
Rowing and roading.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention our first social chairman, Wally Rowan, who's unfortunately no longer with us. But he was very inventive. But we do have to talk about Réveillon, that Christmas party. That we had this dinner in the campus center. I think it started, it was after they were done serving the independents and everything. And there must have been 10 or 12 pieces of cutlery. And at some point in time, they brought in a roast suckling pig with an apple in its mouth for everyone to stand up and applaud. And Wally, and of course, well, hey, I was a poor kid from St. Louis. We never had more than 3 pieces of silverware at the table. What in the world? Again, because I had the typewriter. Now, you have to understand, 1962, this is way before Xerox machines. And so if you wanted to make multiple copies of something, if you weren't going to a printer, and you were never going to go to a printer, you had to type a stencil and then take it over to the business office, and they'd run it off from the mimeograph machine. So I had to remember typing out the instructions that we could give to all the members as to what piece of silverware you were supposed to use when. And that when they brought, because there were like a dozen of them, and when they brought in the roast suckling pig, we were all supposed to stand up and applaud. And I do recall we invited a number of faculty members to this party. What we thought, well, we had to solidify a relationship with the faculty. And we noticed a number of the younger faculty borrowing the cheat sheets.
The thing I remember about that meal is one of the instructions, I forget how many courses it was, but there were a lot. And we were told, and it took hours to eat that meal. We started, I think, like at 8 o'clock and finished at 11. And one of the instructions was to eat small amounts because we had so many different courses. And some of us at the end of that meal were still hungry. And it had taken so long and so few.
But there were, I never heard anyone making overt negative comments. Of course, there was the continual long-lasting slur on teak, but you can't go Greek, go teak, because all of our letters are also normal ones.
And it's lyrical.
Yeah. But it's hard. Whether people said stuff behind their backs, who the heck knows? And a campus of 850 students, and I'm sure there were some number of closet bigots, but they kept it in the closet for the most part. At least that's my recollection.
Like Dave said, most of the fraternities were captives of their national organization. They had national they wanted to stay Phi Gamma Delta, you know, they had to adhere to national rules. And many of those members, of course, were very tolerant of other.
It just about tore the Kappa Sigs apart.
Yes,
I remember, they had raging battles about what to do, whether to work within the national or whether to just separate themselves from the national. So, I think amongst some individuals, they might have been a little bit jealous of us because we did go after a problem and do something about it. And they weren't able to.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of you guys don't know who I am, but I was a member of the first pledge class. My name's John Frater. Jerry was
There's John.
talking.
Yes, yes.
I think you guys have kind of, I don't know, demeaned the goals that you had when you set up the fraternity, because it, it's kind of emotional for me. Segregation was really a hot topic at that time. And to me, pledging this class, this fraternity, was the most important thing to say something about segregation. We had two members. We had Asians, blacks, everything. And we were really kind of looked down on first year or two because of that decision. And you guys held your ground. So, anyway, the other thing that's funny is that George Wallace came here. We as a fraternity picketed George Wallace. We made all the papers big time. So, anyway, later, when I was in the Air Force in Alabama, George Wallace's cousin was my secretary. So, this was after he got shot, and he was a good governor in Alabama afterwards. I had many dinners with George, and he talked about those times. And he remembered that, boy, that we did here. You know, don't get me started.
So Ken, was this demonstration a pledge class project?
No. It was it was 1964 election, and he was running against Lyndon Johnson for the Democratic nomination, and now, and he had he was going to go speak at some Baptist church on the outside skirts of Kine.
Fremont.
And we had a meeting on campus, and TKEs weren't the only people that went and demonstrated, but it was no doubt at all that our membership played a leading role in that. And of course, we all made a point of dressing up because it was Sunday. we were picketing outside of church, and the practicers of realpolitik would probably say, well, you shouldn't have done that because if you hadn't shown up and demonstrated, the TV cameras wouldn't have said anything about Wallace, but it was like as a moral matter. I don't think most of us felt we could obey the dictates of realpolitik. And we did have company. It wasn't just TKEs.
I'd like to add something to that, though. We picketed, we demonstrated they would do, shout them down, don't let them up, no freedom of speech whatsoever, the most illiberal approach to it whatsoever. We made our opinion
We didn't
known,
proselytize at all.
and we did it without trying to stifle his right to speak.
I might add, I mean, of course, as you might expect, I mean, one of the bases, I guess, of our fraternity was we didn't have a mold. I mean, most of the other fraternities on campus, in fact, I can recall walking into another fraternity house some 10 years ago or so, and realizing that, you know, it was in a time warp, because it would have seemed the same thing if I'd walked in there in 1963 or in 2003, because there was a mold, and we didn't have one.
We just
people
had
of all
mold.
sorts. We did, I mean, and politically, when you look at our membership, it was like, you know, we had Goldwater Republicans, who might or may not be libertarians. There were a lot of Rockefeller Republicans. Folks don't forget there really were liberal Republicans in those days. And of course, we had a code of liberal Democrats, but we were certainly, well, there were probably more Democrats in our house than most others, with the possible exception of Lambda Chi. But we were certainly not certainly were a minority. And of course, you had some people in the fraternity who weren't political at all. And but we didn't have. You know, we'd have all sorts of discussions. We didn't have fights over race and religion. And the idea that you'd use that as a criterion to, you know, keep someone out of membership was, you know, it was like just anathema to everybody. It was just not a subject that was ever on the table.
David, you were going to offer something?
Well, my memory is not that good, but maybe some of you can correct me on this, but I do recall that, you know, one of the issues that came up was, were we a supporter of civil rights organization that happened to be a fraternity? Or were we a fraternity that had members who were civil rights supporters? And there's a lot of discussion about that, as I recall. And I don't know if we ever voted on it, but the result was that we wanted to be a fraternity that had civil rights supporters. You know, we wanted to allow the individual to express their views and not force the organization to take a particular stance.
Well,
And
if you remember Larry Hackstaff, he was very active back then. And he, at one point, basically tried to take us over as a tool that he could use for civil rights, you know. And given our nature, it fell to you.
Very successful in that determination,
That
to make
would
it a
be-
fraternity that happened to be
you
in.
remember that, Jerry?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, right at the founding, the whole concept of individualism of the members and maintaining your individuality and being accepting of all for persons, the term we're using here in the 21st century is diversity. I don't think we used it, it was used in 1962, but that legacy of diversity, how important has that been to you? The fact you were involved in something at age 19, 20, and 21, that was the
I think I
emphasis.
was just lucky that I had an opportunity to do it. I mean, this was my personal view. Everybody should be judged as an individual. I was very strongly in favor of aspects of women's lib at the time, you know, Day, Friedan, Seminary. And we had laws in the country that prohibited women from certain jobs, such as jobs that required lifting. I said, there are a lot of women that are stronger than I am. What do you need from this person? Oh, they have to be able to lift 50 pounds, put it on a 6-foot shelf. Okay, make that the requirement, not sex. You know, that has nothing to do with it. You know, just cut through all this crap and go to what is important. And to classify somebody and not see them as an individual was, I think, one of the great faults of times, and kind of remains one.
You know, I remember us as being not exclusive at all. We have meetings to see whether we would offer somebody, offer somebody an opportunity to become part of here, a pledge. And say, well, what do you think about Bob? Why not? And somebody says, well, I don't know. And we'd all look at the person like, why, you know, who are you to not let Bob become a member of the church? We were totally inclusive. I just love that about